Fort Pierce City Commission, District 2. It's for a term of 4 years, representing roughly the southern half of the city, and you must live in the district to vote for the District 2 City Commissioner. Now, our candidates joining us this evening, Michael Broderick and James Clasby. And as we heard, Yulene Daniel was invited. If she joins us during the forum, we'll work her in. But first of all, we'll have the opening statements, 1 minute, 30 seconds. And let's start with Michael Broderick.
Thank you. I would like to thank the St. Lucie County League for hosting this event. I have a prepared statement that I'd like to make for my opening comments. My wife, Katie, and I have been residents and homeowners in Fort Pierce for over 20 years. We are self-employed and own several businesses in and around Fort Pierce. Our primary business, Trident Properties Management, is located at our corporate offices at 1221 Delaware Ave in Fort Pierce. Our company specializes in the acquisition of commercial real estate, requiring renovation and repurposing. We have completed projects throughout the city, and we purchase, renovate, and hold these properties. We have been in business since 1994, 28 years, and in our current location at our corporate offices for 8 years. I've had the opportunity to serve on the City of Fort Pierce Historical Preservation Board for 7 years. I am currently the Vice Chairman of the City of Fort Pierce Planning Board and have held that position for 5 years. I also serve as the Chairman of the City of Fort Pierce Parking Committee, which position I've held for 2 years since the inception of the committee. Our companies employ 10 people locally. In this campaign, I am endorsed by the St. Lucie County Enterprise PAC, Realtors Association, the TC Palm Editorial Board, City of Fort Pierce Mayor Linda Hudson, City of Fort Pierce Commissioner Tom Perona, who currently holds this seat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now the opening statement of James Clasby.
Hi, thank you for having me this evening. My name is James Clasby, and I am running for Fort Pierce City Commission in District 2. I am a fifth-generation resident of Fort Pierce, and I love my hometown. I graduated from Fairlawn Elementary, Lincoln Park Academy Middle School, and John Carroll High School. I earned my associate's degree at IRSC, my bachelor's degree in political science at FAU, and my master's degree in public administration at FAU. I have over a decade of experience working as a project manager for both the public and private sectors. However, I am currently teaching 7th grade civics at Dan McCarty in Fort Pierce. I have also previously served as vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, vice chairman of the Citizens Budget Committee, chairman of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and board member of the Fort Pierce South Beach Association. Prior to filing to run for office, I watched nearly 5 years worth of city commission, planning board, parking committee meetings. I believe that I am completely up to date on the current affairs of the city commission, and I'm ready to get to work as a commissioner on day one. I have been involved in local politics since I graduated from high school. I believe that I am the most qualified candidate for this position and able to make independent choices separate from that of the current city commission and the mayor. And I humbly ask for you to vote for me in the primary election on August 23rd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You'll now have 2 minutes each to respond to each question. We'll rotate who gets the first question, each question first. And let's start with James Clasby. What qualifications do you bring to the office of City Commission?
So I have over a decade of project management experience, as I stated previously, and it's not just in the public sphere, it's also in the private sphere. I've worked for St. Lucie County and Martin County. Martin County, I worked with the Office of Community Development, where we revitalized the downtown of Hope Sound, Bridge Road. I also was in many of staff meetings and offered lots of input on Map Road. And also another operating area of mine was Jensen Beach. I believe that in the city of Fort Pierce, we need to not be raising taxes. And I definitely have experience with managing budgets. Some of my projects are over $1 million. And that's the type of experience that I believe that we need on the city commission.
Okay, same question to Michael Broderick. What qualifications do you bring to the office of City Commission?
Certainly, my entire career has spanning 40 years, 4 decades, has been spent in the commercial real estate industry. I have 40 years of development experience, 40 years of construction experience, 40 years of project management, 40 years of managing budgeting, et cetera. And the big difference here is that we have 28 years in our own business operationally, using our own risk capital, our own money invested into projects throughout the city of Fort Pierce. We have projects in District 1, we have projects in District 2. We're basically all over the city, we're all over the county, and we're down into Martin County. Having said that, from a civic perspective, I have cumulatively spent 15 years on boards and committees in Fort Pierce, specifically in Fort Pierce. My education, having had served on those boards, is extensive. This is vice chairman of the planning board, member of the historic preservation board for 7 years, planning board for 5 years, parking committee for 2 years. I understand the issues that are facing the city. I understand the growth issues that are facing the city. I understand the population-based shift issues that are facing the city, as we deal with these continuously. I believe my 40 years of business experience, my 28 years as a business owner have tested me well to serve in this position moving forward.
Okay, second question, now coming back to Michael Broderick. What are your top 3 priorities for Fort Pierce should you be elected?
The first issue that I consider to be a top priority is managing growth. The city of Fort Pierce entered a significant growth phase approximately 2 years ago. During that time, the city has approved approximately 6 million square feet of industrial space out in the I-95 and Turnpike corridor. In addition, we have approved thousands of residential units in the Jenkin Road corridor. Downtown is experiencing growth problems, significant growth problems, taxing, parking needs, et cetera, that need to be addressed. South Beach is also about to go through a renaissance of new development out on the beach. So clearly, growth is a primary issue that needs to be confronted. It needs experienced hands that understand how to manage this. This is not a concept of build it and they will come. That is not the approach that needs to be taken. We need to plan, we need to strategize, we need to make sure that infrastructure needs are being met. Typical example of that is Seaway Drive out on the South Beach is currently operating at 120% of its rated capacity. Secondarily to that, second priority is the relocation of the wastewater treatment plant. This is an issue that's been discussed for years and years and years. There is currently a plan that's been put into place. That plan needs to be moved forward. It needs to be executed upon as quickly as possible. Third is bringing good paying jobs to Fort Pierce to raise the economic bar for the entire city. I believe we have the recipe in place and the ability to accomplish this by what's taken place in the last 2 years. And I believe that continuity moving forward is critical. Tom Perrone has served the city for 12 years. I've served recommending projects and suggestions to the City Commission cumulatively for 14 years. This continuity of governance is critical at this point in time, and I believe I'm the voice to be able to accomplish that.
Okay, for Mr. Clasby, same question, top 3 priorities for Fort Pierce.
Top 3 priorities for me for Fort Pierce. First and foremost, I want to bring more public involvement into city government. For a really long time, it seems like there's a very small group of people who have been involved. My opponent happens to be one of them. If you ever watch any of the meetings, you'll know that hardly anybody ever attends unless they've been fed talking points to come and comment and brag about the projects, it seems like. But overall, my number 1 priority is going to be transparency and public involvement in the public policy process. Number 2 is I've gone and knocked on almost 1,000 doors at this point, talking with voters in the District 2. And I always ask what their number 1 issue is with the city. And more often than not, that issue happens to involve their own neighborhood roadway. There are so many roadways in Fort Pierce that are in horrible condition with zero stormwater built into the roadway. Roads flood, potholes. We passed a 1/2-cent sales tax, and I don't see enough road projects in the city of Fort Pierce for the record level of revenue that we've been receiving as a city. A third priority of mine is to improve the gateways to our city. By gateways, I mean Orange Avenue, Delaware Avenue, and Okeechobee Road. I think that these are 3 critical areas that are going to benefit the city the most if we start there and then branch outwards. When people come into town, that's the very first image they have of our city is these 3 roadways. Also, people in the town, that's the image that they have of our city. We need to have roadways and our gateways that are going to help bring pride into our community and get people to be more involved in our city government.
Well, in a related question, we'll go back to Mr. Clasby. What is your plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Fort Pierce?
My plan to involve residents in the decision-making process is simple. We need to allow more time for people to know about things. Right now, we follow all of the correct procedures that are required by law as far as public hearings go. But for instance, the downtown parking situation, they wanted to have, or they did have, sorry, one second. We had a town hall for paid parking in downtown, that particular ordinance. And we had a number of people come in and express their concerns about paid parking and their opposition to it. And I think that that has helped slow down the city's installation of paid parking, just that little town hall meeting alone. So maybe that is part of their agenda and they don't want to have more public involvement. But I think the more public involvement and public scrutiny you have, the more you'll realize that a lot of people don't want some of these changes that the city commission has been trying to force feed us.
Mr. Broderick, your plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Fort Pierce.
This is where my opponent and I have a stark difference of opinion. We have 5 elected officials in the city of Fort Pierce. Under those 5 elected officials, we have a multitude of committees and boards, advisory, that act in an advisory capacity. And we have hundreds of volunteers that wish to participate in those processes and make recommendations to their elected officials. I would like to see the boards and committees, which I am a product of, mind you, from the Historic Preservation Board, Planning Board, Parking Committee. I would like to see those boards expanded. I would like to see more residents involved and have decisions made by these particular boards and committees and filter those decisions in mass up to the city commission for consideration. Having been experienced in this now for cumulatively 14 years, I've seen the effectiveness of citizens volunteering their time to make recommendations to the city commission and the city commission acting on those. I'm actually giving testimony in front of the city commission at the conference agenda this Monday morning at 9 o'clock regarding parking issues facing the city and involving the county. This is a generation specifically from the parking committee, which is made up of 7 residents to make recommendations to the city commission. I would like to see the boards and committees expanded, more volunteers brought into the system, and these are all residents. So their voices are heard cumulatively and collectively, and then provide that information is then provided to the city commission. I think it's critically important to expand those roles.
Hey, Mr. Broderick, if elected, would you support more opportunities for small businesses or solicit big corporations to increase the tax base?
Well, that's a very interesting question. As being a businessman in Fort Pierce, owning several small businesses, I look at this as a balanced scale, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples. As I mentioned earlier, the city has approved 6 million square feet of industrial space. It's currently under construction out in the western corridor of the city. The tenants for those spaces are all going to be national and international companies because these footprints are 500,000 square feet, 250,000 square feet, million square feet. Large companies are going to come in and populate those spaces, and they're going to be recruiting right out of Fort Pierce. That's on one side of the scale. On the opposite side of the scale is small business owners, entrepreneurs such as myself. My wife and I own several small businesses within the city, all run out of our office here. I am a strong proponent, supporter of small business, as I am one. So clearly, small business has a voice in me. 40 years of experience in business, 28 years as a business owner. I believe I'm the most qualified candidate, the only candidate in the race that has that type of level of experience, that true boots on the ground business ownership experience. Clearly, business has a voice with me. That is why I received the endorsement from the St. Lucie County Enterprise PAC.
Okay, same question, Mr. Clasby. Would you support more opportunities for small businesses or solicit big corporations to increase the tax base?
It's a wonderful question. I will not personally be soliciting large corporations. I believe in the free market. I do know that the city works in cooperation with the county and the Economic Development Council In fact, everybody should know while I have this platform, everybody should be voting yes on the jobs amendment on the end of your ballot on the referendum. You'll see that if you live in the city, you'll have 2 of them and you should vote yes. This is another tool that city commissioners and county commissioners, whenever you go for the county one, have in their toolbox to attract businesses. Now, when it comes to my preference of large businesses from out of the area versus businesses in town, I think that we have to be fair to the businesses that are existing in our town. I happen to like the way the county goes about offering incentives to businesses, and I think that the city should model some of their efforts after that. I don't think that we should completely bring in, big box names in town, but if there are high paying jobs that are coming, everything is worth considering. It's a very, broad question, but, everything is worth considering is what I will definitely say.
Okay, now we get to dream a little bit. Mr. Cosby, if you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
If I received $1 million grant. So in the grand scheme of things, working in government, I can tell you that $1 million does not buy a lot in government. $1 million will maybe pave you a mile of roadway. So $1 million, I would probably put it into capital improvements within the city or offer small grants to small businesses or facade grants for impoverished neighborhoods that need a little boost to help paint the front of their house or fix their front facade or perhaps repave their driveway or fix their culvert to increase our stormwater and resiliency on our roadways. Things of that nature is what I would like to use $1 million for.
Okay, same question, Mr. Broderick. $1 million grant for use for the city any way you wanted. What would you do with it?
Once again, this is one of the areas that my opponent and I have stark differences between the public sector and the private sector. I'm not a big fan of public funds being used into development and things of this nature. However, I do believe that $1 million can easily be targeted into economically depressed areas of the city where revitalization is necessary to partner with private enterprise on a 5-to-1 ratio or 10-to-1 type ratio for return of investment to get private funds into these specific areas. And I would cite specifically the Peacock Arts District as one that needs complete rejuvenation. And by coupling with some public money, private money is going to be brought into the mix. Another area, of course, that requires the same type of investment is the Avenue D corridor. This area critically needs private funding to enhance the area. The Lincoln Park Theater, of course, is critical. The Highwayman Museum is critical components to anchor this development. But I believe that if you unleash free enterprise into the marketplace with a little enhancement from public money, you're going to get a 10-to-1 return on your $1 million easily. So it's not just $1 million. You say it's $1 million, those funds can be multiplied time and time and time again.
Okay, Mr. Broderick, how would you address the transportation options that are currently available in Fort Pierce?
Well, if you're referring to downtown transportation localities, there's been funding set aside by the City Commission to handle transportation and pedestrian traffic downtown. One of the primary issues that I think is going to be coming up in front of the City Commission within the next several years is going to be Brightline. And Brightline is going to be coming through Fort Pierce in very short order. Fort Pierce is the only logical location for a Brightline station to be set up. We have available land adjacent to Citrus Ave. We have available land adjacent across from Town Hall. This is FEC owned land, et cetera. So we have viable locations for them to utilize. I would also like to see an enhancement of bus routes, bus capacity, and bus times. In the past, we've had employees that work for us that have required to use the bus system, and simply based on operational times of the busing and the schedules, it was an unacceptable solution for them to be able to come to work. So we had to find other alternatives to be able to address their needs to come to work on a timely manner. So I would like to see expansion of those services as well. But the Brightline is a critical component. Downtown transportation from location to location is also critical to enhance the business activity downtown.
Okay, same question, Mr. Clasby. How would you address the transportation options currently available?
So, it's interesting to hear Brightline. I just going to go ahead and state this. I'm in favor of us getting a Brightline stop. In fact, I would love to see a Brightline station put just to the north of the Citrus Overpass, up to the St. Lucie Battery and Tire area. If you're familiar with that area, I think that would be a perfect location. But transportation, you have to think about it as more than just, vehicular transportation. I would love to enhance our sidewalks in our city. We have areas where sidewalks do not connect. We need to enhance our safe routes to schools and neighborhoods that are close to schools. You wouldn't believe how many children actually walk to school on the street without a sidewalk. No street lights, no sidewalks. Those are the things that the city should be focusing on improving. Our county handles the busing, and the city does help pay for it, but our county primarily handles the transit when it comes to busing. And I don't know that our area necessarily wants to have traditional busing. A lot of my friends are the people who actually take the buses, and they tell me that they're often empty. Maybe it's because there's not enough bus stops, perhaps. But I would like to see bicycles and pedestrians receive a higher level of priority for future capital projects when it comes to designing roadways and creating complete streets and promoting exercise and walking places rather than just driving everywhere. That'll help that parking problem downtown too, if we can create some safe pathways into downtown.
Okay, last question for Mr. Clasby. What's more important for Fort Pierce right now? Building affordable homes, improving commercial business spaces, or promoting entrepreneurship?
I would say all of the above. You can't really pick one over the other. None of those things are necessarily things that you can purchase directly. So it's not just like you can pump money into one over the other. The city needs to be focused on just improving overall quality of life for its residents.
Okay, same question, Mr. Broderick. What's more important right now? Building affordable homes, improving commercial spaces, or promoting entrepreneurship?
An interesting question. It's a very similar question that I posed to the planning department staff at the last planning board meeting. This issue came up once again because of all the commercial development that's taking place out west. The Jenkins Road corridor, as I stated earlier, has had approvals for thousands of residential units. The concern here is housing for folks that are going to be populating those jobs in all those new buildings. So the discussion took place relative to providing affordable housing, worker housing, as in apartments, as in moderately priced homes and condominiums and townhomes, et cetera. And this is a study that's actually taking place in the planning department, or is about to take place in the planning department, relative to affordable housing. So we have a balance here. If we're going to continue to attract businesses to operate in the city of Fort Pierce, we need a workforce, and that workforce needs housing, and they need good quality housing. So there's a distinct balance that needs to be struck between affordable housing, available workforce, and promoting businesses to come into the city. It's all intertwined, and it's a question that was posed literally by myself at the last planning board meeting as we were approving a 400 to 500 unit apartment complex out on the Jenkins Road corridor that will be heading off to the City Commission shortly. So we're looking for a mix of housing alternatives to support workers that are going to live, work, play in that environment. So they're all intertwined. That discussion is currently taking place. I am out in front of that discussion and look forward to continuing that discussion on the City Commission.
Thank you for answering the league questions. Now it's time for closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. Broderick. 2 minutes each.
Well, first, I would like to thank the league for hosting this event today. It's been an enjoyable experience. I do believe that there are some stark differences drawn between my opponent and myself for the voters to decide who they believe would be the best candidate to put into onto the commission. Again, I'm going to come back to my 40 years of business experience, my 28 years as a business owner, my 20 plus years as a resident and homeowner here in the city of Fort Pierce. My wife and I love the city of Fort Pierce. We enjoy doing business here. We look forward to a long continued relationship working within the city, et cetera. I believe that my experiences working in the city, working in City Hall, providing reports and information to the City Commission, More importantly, even working with city staff, I have a close working relationship with the planning department, with the code enforcement department, with the city manager's office, that these relations are not new to be established. We've been working together now cumulatively for 14 years as I've served on the planning board, historic preservation board, and the parking committee. I believe that my life experiences afford me the ability to lend a voice to these discussions, bring pragmatic solutions to the table based on my business experience. And simply put, I do believe that I am the best candidate for the job. Once again, the current commissioner that is serving in this position, Tom Perona, has endorsed me for this seat, as has the mayor of the city of Fort Pierce, Linda Hudson.
Okay, thank you, Michael Broderick. And now closing statements, James Clasby.
So if you're looking for an independent, educated, local community team player, I'm your guy. I have a website. It's jamesclasby.com. I also have a Facebook group called St. Lucie County Concerned Citizens. I also have a Facebook page with 4.4 thousand followers, and I encourage you to follow me. You can follow me at facebook.com/JD Clasby. Now, if you want to vote for someone that's not going to just listen to the other commissioners and provide you a real voice with your vote, again, I am your guy, James Clasby, born here, live here, work here. The election is on August 23rd. We have a history of extreme low voter turnout in this city, and that's partially why we're in the situation that we are today. The history is that commissioners get elected without competition. That's why I'm running. I am the competition. I am essentially running against an incumbent in the guy that's on the screen right now. The mayor is running his campaign through Media Arts Group and other forms. She's endorsed him. The current commissioners endorsed him. If you're looking for real change on the Fort Pierce City Commission that's not too extreme, I'm telling you right now, I'm your guy. James Clasby for Fort Pierce City Commission, August 23rd. Do not forget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both candidates for participating tonight, Michael Broderick and James Clasby. Yulene Daniel is also on the ballot, and she was invited to participate. We thank the members of the league for putting all this together, and there'll be more races coming up next week. We also thank you for developing the questions. And particularly, we want to thank the audience for informing yourselves about the primary election. It is coming up August 23rd. So